Thank you so much. Hope you can all hear me fine. So again, I'm Rick Sloane, Senior Director of Global Alliances and Strategic Partnerships. And what I want to walk you through is what you've been listening to a lot throughout the day is around Azure Active Directory, how it can help you, what the benefits are, and really what the product is. So what we're going to talk about is the Zerto backup for SaaS that's powered by Keepit and some of the benefits. Obviously, with Azure Active Directory, it's moving into the Entra ID name branding towards the end of this year, and all of our collateral will adjust accordingly. Let's talk a little bit about the platform and how it works and where Azure Active Directory actually fits in. So the great news about the Zerto backup for SaaS is the breadth of SaaS applications that we support. Microsoft 365, Azure Active Directory, Dynamics 365, and some other Microsoft apps that'll soon be supported are Power BI and Azure DevOps. As you can also see, there's an extensive list of SaaS applications that are fully supported. Think about this platform as a white glove service. Easy to implement, easy to use, easy to recover. What's important about it as well is under the Enterprise Unlimited licenses, you get unlimited retention. So what is your organization's retention policy? Anywhere from 30 days up to 99 years, all included. Also the unlimited storage. This takes a lot of pressure off budgets of how to purchase based on power users versus light users. The immutability aspect is really part of our secret sauce and how the platform itself was built. There is no hardware needed, no VMs. It's a straight born in the cloud SaaS environment. It was built off of a Merkle tree architecture, so it stores in a fully immutable environment built for after the backup is complete to be able to stay in an immutable format. Helps keep you protected from accidental deletions, disgruntled employees, or a potential ransomware attack. We have our own data centers throughout the globe. Data sovereignty is extremely important. So each of the geographies where you reside, your data will stay within that geography. We also, as part of the third-party backup, there is the 3-2-1 rules that many of you may be familiar with in the marketplace. We actually take it a step further to 4-2-1. Every one of our geographies has 2 data centers. Those 2 data centers are both active-active. Each of the data centers also has a second backup copy. So you as the customer will receive 4 copies of your data backed up, all stored in an immutable format. Obviously, security is extremely important to us. We use AES 256-bit encryption, both in transit and at rest. So let's go a little bit deeper now, really what we want to talk about. Now that you understand the platform, the diversity, and the security aspect, what about Azure AD? What's your plan should an attack happen? And to better explain what exactly is Azure AD and the identities it has, where does it live? What does it mean if you do lose access and your Azure AD? These are the credentials that people like you and I and every other employee of an organization have in order to access the data's network, in order to get access to the data itself. And what happens if that identity is compromised? What if it's not recoverable? What's the plan? Even Microsoft talks about how important Azure AD is. It's 50 times more likely to be compromised than consumer accounts. Microsoft is also ranked. What are the top 5 areas that are most important in critical need of a backup? And having a third-party backup, storing it in an immutable format is what's so important to make sure that should you have to recover, is your data going to be there? Is it recoverable? And can you bring your business back to working conditions as if nothing happened? The identity systems is number one on the Microsoft list when they look at what are your top 5 areas that are most important. Everybody talks about the bad actors, the nation states, the not if but when an attack should happen. Leaving names out to protect the innocent. There was a nation state attacker who entered a network, and this is very common. Those of you that are familiar with security and cybersecurity, the first thing they go after is to compromise the on-prem AD. They use that access to go up into their Azure AD and delete all of the resources of their Azure targets. So we're going to break this down and really simplify it. Let's call it a control plane and a data plane. What everybody is used to is how do we store the SaaS applications? SaaS applications are what we're going to refer to here as the data plane. Your Microsoft 365, Azure AD, Dynamics 365, Power BI, Azure DevOps. These are all stored on your data plane. We store them, as I've mentioned, in an immutable format. Making sure the data is available for your users to be productive on a daily basis is really important. But what if they can't get access to their data? That's the control plane. This is the Azure AD. These are your rules, your policies, your conditional access policies. Handling the control plane is what's giving you and your employees the ability to be able to get access to all of their data. So let's still dive in a little bit deeper here on this. Here's what's really great about the Zerto Backup for SaaS solution. We're giving customers 2 options. We have an Azure AD standard where it's free of charge with your paid solution to help protect some of your Azure AD credentials, your users, your groups, your administrative units, and also your roles. But a lot of organizations, many times, will have a stronger security posture. And so there's an option. There's an option to also then purchase as a SaaS environment the Azure AD Advanced. Azure AD Advanced takes those original 4 groups that I've just mentioned, but now we also back up and store in an immutable format the customer's conditional access policies, their enterprise apps, registrations, their Microsoft Intune for endpoint management, and their BitLocker keys. And so where this really starts to drill down and become extremely important is how Microsoft looks at AD on-prem versus Azure AD. And there are 2 different ways of how Microsoft handles it. And AD, when you store on-prem and you go to restore into Azure AD, not all your policies are compatible to be recovered, which means as a customer, you need to rebuild parts of your conditional access policies, your BitLocker keys, and part of the ability for users to gain access to the network to get to their data. What's that cost? What resources do you need in order for that to happen? And so a lot of times you'll see where organizations will say we use the recycle bins. But a recycle bin isn't an alternative for a third-party safe and secure backup. A recycle bin gives you some short-term security, kind of like a safety net, but you can rip through a safety net over time. And some of those recycle bin items, after 30 days, that becomes a hard delete. They're now unrecoverable. So on your 31st day, If you didn't notice, items were removed and they're in your recycle bin, you have no way to ever recover them. Having a safe, secure environment makes it much easier. So some of the objects that don't exist on-prem AD, but they exist in your Azure AD, are items like your conditional access policies, the applications that help with the service principles for your app registrations, your login for your roles, and some of your licenses. And so understanding if you're storing on AD but trying to recover into your Azure AD, what is available and what's not. And so looking at the Zerto Backup for SaaS, having some of the key features, looking at the broadest coverage of level of detail within Azure AD in the marketplace, having a platform that was built to be immutable once it's backed up, easy to recover and go down to the object level, gives your IT department the ability to really have a user-friendly white glove service-like product to be able to help back up and keep your environment not only secure for your data, but also secure for your users to have access. So from a business continuity standpoint, keeping a flow, keeping it easy to be able to just have that white glove service in a SaaS application be in the background and work for you, keeping it cost effective, having it broken down very simply into a price per licensed user or price per object in the Azure AD, and being able to sit here and talk about the security aspect being ISO 27001, HIPAA, PCI, NIST, and ISAE 3402 that covers your SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance. So there's a barcode scan for additional information on the Zerto Backup for SaaS. Should you want additional information, please feel free. I'll leave this slide up here for now for anyone that would like some additional information. And with that, I want to thank you all for your time.